Good morning, vinyl community. If you've been following my channel, you know I've been reading about the Manson File. I've come to just about the end of the book where it talks about the LaBianca crime family. So I can't really talk too much about it, but I can talk a little bit about it. The Manson File, the LaBianca crime family, talks about too much. Coins, silver coins, drugs. LaBianca is safe in his house. LaBianca's market safe got cleaned out the day before his murder. He was going to be forced to resign from the board of directors from the bank that he worked for that supplied the markets. So they were delivering all these coins delivered to the Longhorn Silver Dollar bar that was in Venice called the Silver Dollar Bar. So we're delivering silver dollars from LaBianca's residence and market and bank to the Satan slaves of Venice, their headquarters, run by Danny DiCarlo was the guy, and LaBianca had a place 2 doors down from that. So the straight slaves were running the headquarters for the money laundering outfit. And I used to hang out there when I was a kid, like just a few blocks away from the Longhorn Silver Dollar Bar. My friends lived right around the corner. So try to get into a little bit of this. I talked about the Straight Slaves headquarters there with Danny DiCarlo was the MC and his associate Ian Courier of the Straight Slaves. The conspiracy involved in all this is just so much that you would really have to read the Manson book to figure it out. The Manson File. Who delivered the goods? Who took them? What cars they drove? Who drove? Or who was with them when they got together? How many of them did they go there? And all remains a mystery. The raid on Spawn Ranch arrested over 50 or 60 people. All of them let go 3 weeks after the murders. The fact that most of them knew each other 2 years before. Why the raid happened is released. Connections to all of this mob-related activity without mentioning too many players. Charlie said that the straight slaves were rats for the mob. He was God or the Pope. With the Charles meant saying the God of the Pope, Charles meant that this was the mob. That's why Charlie learned guitar from Frankie Carbo, a known FBI informant working with LaBianca's family. I used to hang out in Venice Beach right around the corner, which we already talked about. So we had silver dollars from the home of and headquarters of the Straight Slaves and LaBianca's headed to 2 property doors away. As Charlie said, you never know where the mob may show up in your life. Some of Charles's sayings I may read in the Manson File for yourself, but you definitely have to learn about these things to go back to the TLB JFK. Involves a Cuban Missile Crisis, a list of Cuban dissidents that was stolen from JFK Airport, along with another missing document that had the plans for a new Cuban missile launcher stolen from JFK Airport. So these 2 missing documents takes the Cielo Drive LaBianca case to a national security level. Connected to Cielo Drive and Waverly Drive. 3-letter agencies involved in the case is still open, not closed, but open. To learn all the connections, read to the Manson File, underground, overground, 60s drug wars, Vietnam protesters could not stop the war. Silent majority making Manson 50s, not 60s, into a cult serial killer that he was. No, man, he was from the 50s. He got out, and it was psychedelic time, which he had to adapt to. Stephen Parent, who was the youngest victim at Cielo Drive, had the master tapes to the Chessman in his car. What happened to Ches Chessman, I'm not going to go into, but he was MK Ultra by a lady who was in Camarillo Hospital for 9 years. Honeypot. I could talk about for the next 2 hours, but I'm not going to. There's a La Bianca Beach Boys management connection. The Beach Boys management connection to the La Biancas was the Beach Boys manager. It's in here somewhere. Where were we? Let's see. This idea that Manson, inspired by John and Paul McCartney, John and Ringo, or John and Paul, the Beatles. It's more about John Paul Rostow than the Beatles records. And there's another double connection to Rosemary's Baby as well. We all know about the movie Rosemary's Baby. We've all been involved and talked about that for many times. Seems to be more about Rosemary LaBianca's first baby, a lady named Suzanne Struthers, otherwise known as Suzanne Ray, otherwise known as Susan LaBerge, otherwise known as Susan Berg, otherwise known as Susan Wolk. And the Beach Boys connection to the LaBiancas was through their manager, Nick Grillo, who was friends with associate Frankie Carbo, who taught Manson guitar. He was an unknown informant working with the LaBianca family. And I talked about I used to hang around with them at their headquarters. As Charlie said, you never know where the mob may show up in your life. Some of Charlie's sayings I may read from the Manson File for yourself. Definitely learn about these things that go back to the TLB, JFK, Cuban Missile Crisis, and a list of Cuban exiles and missing documents from the JFK airport and the national security level connected to Cielo and Waverly. The three-letter agencies now involved in this case is now a national security issue. But the case is not closed, but still open. It stands out as uniquely suspicious that Susan Struthers, Rosemary LaBianca's first baby, stands out as uniquely suspicious. LaBerge, Lino LaBianca, and Harold True's house. They all hung out there. That was next door to the Waverly Drive house. Susan's double meaning, or Rosemary's Baby, was definitely involved in these crimes. So I'm going to end this now, and maybe we'll read about what Charlie said when he was in prison. I feel that it's very important. God bless all the children, family, and vinyl community members.